Hey guys, what's up? It's Jack and welcome back to another video. And you know what? Something flew under the radar, should I say under my radar, a few days ago or whatnot, because Mark Rubin actually ended up making a statement over on Twitter or X and talking about the netcode. And I did not know of this. I get notifications whenever he does tweet, so I guess maybe I don't get a notification when he replies to somebody, I'm assuming, or I don't know. I don't know exactly how this flew under my radar, but that's fine. But you know who did catch a wind of it? J-Bo Enderman, or JB, so to speak. I'm a big fan of his. I actually watch his videos quite a bit, and the guy is extremely good at what he does. And sometimes when I listen to his commentaries, man, it makes me feel like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest because he's just that good at what he does. So I actually went back on Twitter or X, and I couldn't really find the tweet because I don't think it was a post. It must have been a reply. So instead of digging, I'm like, you know what? Why don't we have JB himself kind of read out the tweet to you guys? And then I will come back, and then you guys are going to have to listen to boring old me and to what I have to say. So JB, by all means, say what you got to say.
We've been updating the netcode and hitreg in our patches. We've seen a bunch of people say that it got better after those recent patches. But we know there is still more to do. This engine has never done anything like this before. So we are building the online experience from scratch, so to speak. We are not a game on a decades-old engine. We'll get there. Also, I may be reaching out to people to get names of people with bad netcode to help us investigate the issues.
All right, guys, and we're back. And all his stuff, the links and everything to his channel, as well as his Twitch or whatnot, will be down in the description box below. So I highly recommend you guys go check him out if you are into the commentaries of Call of Duty and XDefiant. And you really can't go wrong with JB. So first of all, if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for that video, I definitely would not know about this. So shout out to him, man. Such a great commentator. Now, with that being said, in terms of what Mark Rubin had to say in terms of describing the netcode on Twitter, it actually makes me feel better because, quite frankly, the video that I was going to make today wasn't going to be this at all. It was actually going to be something different. However, I'm not going to tell you what that is because I may save it for the next video that comes after that, or soon to get here. But the fact that he actually talked about this kind of makes me want to postpone that video, so to speak, or maybe even that topic for a little while, or maybe not, who knows, because one of the things that I wanted to kind of discuss in that video was actually, or one of the points of concern was the netcode. But at the same time, I'm glad that Mark Rubin a few days ago said what he said on here, because it just goes to show you that they're kind of, they're dealing with things as they're releasing the game, so to speak. It seems like, it seems like when it comes to XDefiant, it seems like this game, as well as its developers, they're obviously doing the right thing. They actually care about the community. They actually care about the developers themselves that create the game as well, which is obviously a good thing. Happier developers, better game, et cetera, et cetera. But it seems like they're just dealing with a whole bunch of unfortunate stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost kind of like bad luck in a way, so to speak. It's almost like they're dealing with that. Like, things are happening when they're unexpected to happen. Then there's a bunch of delays where they seemingly came out of nowhere. I mean, even if you go back to the early days before XDefiant was released, as a matter of fact, way before it was released, the devs did not expect the numbers that they got. Like when we played the open and closed beta or whatnot, which was about 8 to 10 months or so, 8 or 9 months before the game officially released, let me tell you, man, it was, wow. The devs didn't expect the numbers of the players that we would get. And at the same time, as we know, there's been over 11 or 12 million unique players that play in XDefiant. Now, that's not concurrent. That's unique players. So last time I heard, there was over 700,000 concurrent players at any given time playing the game, which is a good number. We like that. But with that being said, there's a really kind of a big discussion on whether or not those numbers have dropped significantly. Obviously, I'm not going to use Twitch views as a way to kind of measure that, but I can totally understand how other people out there, whether they're in content creation or not, or whether they're just fans, if they don't know what the player count is, they're obviously going to look at the game's popularity over on Twitch. But watching the game on Twitch in terms of popularity really doesn't necessarily mean that the game has dropped like that much. Just because it's dropped over on Twitch doesn't necessarily mean that it translates over to how many players are actually playing the game. So, and let's not beat around the bush here. XDefiant right now, when it comes to watching things, because of the fact that the game, let's be real, the game has a lack of content, so to speak. It could obviously be worse, but because the game has a lack of content and a lack of features that should be there, because they're staples when it comes to first-person shooters, things like prestige, things like that matter, and a grind factor, and the amount of weapons you can use, and everything like that, and competitive being in full steam and stuff like that. XDefiant hasn't really, in my humble opinion, it hasn't even despite the fact that it's been out for over 6 weeks now. I personally think as far as Twitch viewership goes, I don't think it's reached its full potential yet, because competitive hasn't reached everything, and at the same time, the game itself hasn't reached its full potential. But at the same time, other people will argue with me and say, hey, well, Jack, it's all about timing. The game is going to be the most popular within its first months of time or whatnot, and that may be true. But with that being said, XDefiant is not one of those yearly games. XDefiant is going to be one of those games that continues to progress and get better over time. But even with that being said, I'm pretty sure even other games out there that have really big viewerships on Twitch, I'm pretty sure even those games aren't exactly where they used to be, but those numbers are significant. But who's to say that XDefiant can't make a comeback when it does eventually catch full steam, so to speak? Because at this point right now, it seems like that part of the problem is that there's just some bad luck going on with the game, so to speak. Some unfortunate things just going on, and the devs and everything like that being the small devs that they are, but they're doing the best that they can within limits, of course, to give us what we want. So at the end of the day, like I mentioned in a previous video, the name of the game with XDefiant is going to have to be patient, and that's both. That's kind of like we're gifted to have the kind of developers we have that actually care about their audience and actually want to be transparent with their audience, and that make things happen, upon request or whatnot within a timely manner. Obviously, things like Netcode are a much bigger issue, but when it comes to things like changing how the XP works for weapon grinding and stuff like that, as well as the spider bot thing that they're going to add back into the game to where we can look down and shoot that up, and it's only within a few days. And you're looking at some other games out there that when a weapon needs a certain nerf or a certain feature needs to be added into the game or something needs to be changed, it could take many months for something like that for other games to even bring that out, so to speak. Not because they're incapable, but because they're just not as transparent or whatnot, and they don't take it as seriously. Or they may be even limited by the publisher. You never know. We're not a fly on the wall looking in, guys, so we can all assume. But at the end of the day, we're actually getting some progress within a timely manner when it comes to XDefiant compared to some other, franchises out there like Call of Duty or Halo, so to speak, right? And we all know what Halo's been through. You don't have to be a Halo fan to understand the shitstorm that Halo has been through, so to speak. Hell, even Battlefield 2042, which is something that Jabo Enderman actually mentioned in his video as well, which is something that I totally forgot about. I was like, oh yeah, holy crap. Yeah, Battlefield 2042 was an absolute, disaster. Honestly, if you think XDefiant was a disaster, no, Battlefield 2042 was a disaster. But at the same time, with time, it became better. Even I think he even mentioned that Apex Legends, and again, I'm not a Battle Royale fan, so I don't really look into that. But I do know that Apex Legends was shadow dropped and all that stuff. But I guess apparently Apex Legends obviously wasn't the game that it ended up being, months later down the line or whatnot. And obviously the same holds true for every single game. Like even Call of Duty, like when you look at it from like 3 to 6 months after release, it's like you feel like you actually have a complete game by the time the bugs are done with and all that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. But the cool thing about XDefiant is that it's going to go far and beyond that, because it's a game that's going to be continued to be supported for years to come. At least that's what the goal is. And I, for one, can't wait for that to happen, to be honest with you. And I hope it actually gets there. I hope it actually gets to the point to where there's enough support for the game from a player perspective, and as much money the game needs to make to have the kind of support as well, to where it could actually do that. Because with the kind of developers that we have, I think we can really reach some good heights with this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, obviously there's been ups and downs, back and forth as far as the netcode is concerned. It is by far one of the most aggravating, if not the most aggravating thing about the game. There's no doubt about that. XDefiant still has a long way to go to reach its full potential, as I've said time and time again. But at the same time, when you got devs out there that are being as transparent as they are, and that care as much as they do, and that work as hard as they work, and actually have proven over the last few weeks or even to a month or so since the game's release, that they are willing to make changes really quickly on the fly, or to try to compensate, so to speak. Like, for instance, to give you a prime example, before they were able to switch out the XP to make it more reasonable in terms of how much the grind factor is to level up your guns, so to speak, right? What did they do? Every single weekend they gave us double XP. And not only is that a good idea from a weekend perspective, but it's also a really good idea in terms of to have a temporary and quick solution until you can get something more permanent. And that right there, my friends, is exactly a show and proof of the fact that they care, because they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do double XP every single weekend. They could have done it, for the first week to celebrate the release of the game, and then they could have said, okay, we'll see you in a month or so. But no, they didn't do that. They did that for every single week because they knew from the get-go, from the transparency and all over social media and everything like that, that everybody's biggest complaint was that it took way too long to level up your weapons. And it wasn't for the sake of leveling up the weapon itself to get it to max level, but it was so that way you can unlock the attachments, which was too much. So until they actually found the right and permanent solution, they gave us double XP every single weekend. And who cares if they continue to do so? If they continue to do so, that's great. Let's celebrate the game every single weekend. Why not? But especially as far as the grind to max camo is concerned. But with that being said, if you put all these pieces together, it just shows how much the devs care. And that's all we wanted. At the end of the day, as far as Call of Duty Refugees are concerned, we never asked for a game to be more graphically better than Call of Duty. We never asked for a game to have 10 times the amount of content than Call of Duty, for instance. All most of us really asked was to be listened to and, for there to be transparency and communication. And when you look at everything that the devs for XDefiant have been doing, we've been getting just that. So this is the reason I truly believe. Now, I can only speak for myself. I don't want to put words in other content creators or, fans' mouths out there or whatnot, or players, so to speak, right? I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. But for me, coming from me, that's all I've ever wanted when it comes to the game like that. You know what I mean? Especially when you look at the past and you look at how much you've been ignored and how much a lot of the opposite's been going on. Hell, you even look at pros being ignored. And we're not just talking about COD, we're also talking about Halo. And as you guys know, before XDefiant came out, the main multiplayer game that I was playing out there, other than Call of Duty World War II before XDefiant released, guess what? It was Halo. And it was Halo Infinite ranked. Okay, that's what I grinded for a while, and I enjoyed it. I didn't take it too seriously, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the BR and the DMR gameplay or whatnot. But at the end of the day, I know very well that a lot of the Halo pros themselves, and even regular fans, were ignored for a long time. Now, granted, the game had development hell for sure, and they had a lot of catching up to do. But when it came to making specific changes for ranked and stuff like that, after the pros time and time gave feedback again, the devs just thought they knew the game better. Now, from a development standpoint, they do, but from when it comes to a gameplay and stuff like that standpoint, I mean, the pros had to do a lot of GAs, gentleman agreements and stuff like that. They made a lot of suggestions in terms of what they could do with other weapons and stuff like that, and it just never happened. Like the devs wanted to do it their way. They never wanted to meet in the middle. And on top of that, they weren't as transparent over social media as like the devs in XDefiant are. And I figured I might as well put Halo into the conversation, because when I talk about Call of Duty and how Call of Duty does things wrong and how they can do things better, it just sounds like I'm trying to beat the shit out of Call of Duty. You know what? Let me tell you guys, I'm going to say this yet again because I've said it in previous videos. I would love for both XDefiant and Call of Duty to not only coexist, which they are, but I would love for them to continuously make each other better. But here's the thing, Call of Duty doesn't care about that. It's going to move to the beat of its own drum, and that's fine. You know what I mean? They want to keep putting EOMM and SBMM back in the game, that's fine. Do they want to keep, giving us nothing but crickets after about a month or so after the game's been out? That's fine. Do they want to do this? Do they want to do that? That's fine. Whatever. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what makes a good game is its foundation. And part of XDefiant's foundation that's been kicking ass is the transparency and the effort among the devs. But unfortunately, the thing is, we're not going to be able to see the full effort of results of what the devs have been pushing out, because one of the main issues with the game is this netcode. And the netcode issue itself is more than enough to turn even the most loyal fans away sooner than they would normally, turn away, whether it's boredom or whatever it is. You know what I mean? A lot of people can only handle so much when it comes to netcode, which is understandable. But anyway, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to deal with it for as long as I can. There's a lot of ups and downs, lefts and rights, but at the end of the day, I'm still enjoying the game. And as long as I enjoy the game and as long as I enjoy making content about it, I'm going to continue to do so. And when that stops, I will stop to do so, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, with that being said, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I want to know down in the comment section what you guys think. And again, shout out to JB. Check out his stuff. Everything will be in the link in the description below. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one.